right? And what we're going to do now is create a structure. Now we're going to start with this simple in stock. Again, if you haven't set anything up yet and you go to this, I'm just going to use the stock ones that you would find in the stock library as well. And you can use any of the particular ones you want. Now, what weldments need, again, remember I just had mentioned that it's downloading profiles. So weldments is essentially sweeps. You're downloading a library of profiles. So I can start with our ANSI inch. I'll start with the AL channel right at the top. And I'll go ahead here and pick the very first size. And all I'm going to do here, I just have this one here is just a 2D sketch. And I'll pick it. Okay, now my square's a little bit small there. Let me go ahead and crank that size up a bit here. I got another good one here that'll be a 3D sketch here that we'll do in just a sec. Okay, so again, structural member under the weldments tab. Okay, and I'll just start by picking one here. Now, when we take a look at the edge here, we see it, and by default here, locating in this lower right-hand corner. Now, there's a bunch of things that we can do with this. Okay, we can take this, if I scroll down here, we can mirror the profile top to bottom. We can do it via the vertical axis there. Okay, flipping it back and forth. Or we can take here, and we're going to talk about alignment a little bit later on down the road, or we can say, well, I need this at a 45-degree angle. Now, it's 0 to 359 degrees, okay, that we can do that. So if we wanted to go the other way, it'd be, say, 270 plus 45, or something along that line. Okay. Now, if I want to locate my profile, now this all depends on how you've made your sketch. For instance, does this represent the, say for instance, the outside of a border of a table? Does it represent, say, the inside, maybe something sliding into this? Okay, so depending on how you've dimensioned your initial sketch, right, we can, again, come in here. And what I'm going to do now is I've got one, and for instance here, I want to flip this. So it's facing inward. And now I'm going to go ahead and add some more to this. I just picked a sketch line here, and I'll add another one. Okay, now before I pick any more lines, I'm kind of zoom up on here. And see, this is actually all mitered nicely in here, so this could be welded together. Now, because I've picked two lines here, if I look over here in the Property Manager, notice there's different ways that these corner treatments can be applied. Now, when I pick it over here in the Property Manager, we're going to find that this is a global setting. And these little purple dots allow us to do custom individual corner changes. So right now, I'm just going to miter this one here at a 45. Okay. Another neat thing in here, if we need to, we can add weld gaps. Okay, so there's all sorts of options in here. I'll go ahead and add some more lines here. All right, so when I zoom in here, it's kind of hard to see with the yellow there, but again, we've got all 45s in the corners. Now, say for instance, for whatever particular reason, we wanted to change one of these corners. Well, what you can do here is click in the corner, and a little box shows up here, and we can change this to different styles. So everyone else is going to be the 45, and this one is going to be this 90-degree end button. Okay. Once we have that set, okay, I can click OK if I want to, again, customize that corner. And for now, I'm all set. I'm going to click OK. And as simple as that, we've got a nice trimmed and squared. Now, SolidWorks has gotten better over the years as far as trimming profiles right off the bat, where anything square or rectangular works really well in order to trim. Now, we might run into some things, especially when we do this in more than one feature, where, again, we may need to do some custom trimming. We're going to cover that here in a second. Now, what's nice is, and this has been 3 or 4 versions, It used to be each and every one of these pieces was a structural member, and those weldments files were gigantic, especially if you had a somewhat complex steel structure or whatever material structure that you had, because every one of these had, again, every one was a structural feature member here on its own. Now, let me open up one here where we've got a little bit more sketching already done. Okay. Now, in this particular case, this combination of sketches was done in 2D. Really, the fastest way to really go about creating weldments is to do them in a 3D sketch. That takes a little bit more practice in order to do that, especially if you're not real familiar with 3D sketching. There is a really nice tutorial within SolidWorks that gets you here, 3D sketching. Okay, so that'll, in this case, it does a nice little rack-looking component that you can do. It'll run you through that with 3D sketching. You go through that, okay, and you can jump right into creating this. Now, there's a few planes on here. Let me hide those, kind of get them out of the way. The other thing is here, if I look at, for instance, my right plane, it's directly through the middle of my part. And this goes really for any SolidWorks part. This is just really handy in the case of weldments, okay, because we can take advantage of mirroring bodies. All right, so anytime we've already done something, instead of it over, well, let's borrow it. Okay, or in this case, mirror. Now, obviously, if you have a weldment is not symmetrical or something along that line, well, that kind of gets thrown out the window. But this particular case, we're going to take that or use that to our advantage. Now, I just did C-channel with that. All right, and now what I'm going to do here, so now we have something flat and something here at an angle. So watch this. Structural member. Okay, ANSI inch again, and what I'm going to look for here, okay, is tube, and let's see, we'll do 2-inch by 1/4-inch wall. Now watch this. I'm going to go ahead once again, pick this. Now if I zoom in, again, I can do a locate profile. Now the key to locating a profile is to have a point on it, okay? And most of these rectangular, any of these profiles have a good assortment of extra singular sketch points put in where you might want to, and again, locate that in space. So right now, and square and rectangle, it defaults to the center, wherever the origin basically happens to be. That's what what it snaps to, the origin in the solid library feature part. So I'm going to locate this to the corner here. I'm going to keep going just like I did last time. All right, and I'm going to say, well, I don't want 45 miters. Maybe I want to build with a chop saw. Nothing fancy here. All right, so I'm going to take here and do the corners. Now, this is technically how I probably would, again, if I'm just trying to make it easy, if these are all, that way these are all the same length, okay, and fit it all together. But again, I may want to choose here on separate corners to change what that end butt looks like, okay, or excuse me, what that miter looks like. All right, now, I'm going to see here, there's a button called New Group. If I try to pick this vertical, as long as it's the same size material that I want to use, okay, if I try to pick this vertical, I don't see really anything happen. It doesn't include it. This is another thing that's come along a couple versions of SolidWorks ago now, is this new group option. So as long as the material that you're picking is the same size, I'm going to click on New Group. Okay, and now that I clicked New Group, now I can pick another line. I'll see my profile here. Again, I can locate it, because as of right now, it's kind of sticking out the side there. So I'll scroll all the way down here in the Property Manager to locate profile, and I'll pick this center one here. If you make a mistake, oops, oh shoot, I located that to the wrong wrong location. No big deal. Hit that locate profile again, and you can move it. Any of these things can be changed. Okay, so however this, we started with 2 by 2, maybe we wanted 3 by 3, okay, or 1 by 1. Maybe we didn't want to spend that much money on this particular table. So you can always go back in and modify any of these after the fact. Okay, so change from 2 square down to 1 square or whatever. All right, lastly here, I'm going to do a new group again. And this time here, I'm going to go ahead and pick this sketch that's sitting at an angle. All right, now, right now you can see here, it's kind of sitting off, again, off the edge of that, kind of at an angle. Once again, we can go ahead and locate that and stick this in. Now, check it out. Again, with square tubing, SOLIDWORKS is awesome at this, at trimming with this square tubing like this. Okay, there's no trimming needed. It just cuts it off and knows right where it is. When I'm done, I'll hit OK. And I've got myself a structural member here. Okay, or I should say a collection of them. So because we did symmetry, we can take here and just mirror our bodies. Okay, so I'll go to the Features tab. You can select before or after that particular plane or make your own plane up. Okay, and go and do a mirror. And I'll come down here to Bodies to Mirror and pick these two. Now notice here, check it out. I'm overlapping here. Okay, so I'm going to click OK here for a second, and we can see we have an overlapping body here. So maybe, oops, under that structural member, I should have located that differently so it sits higher up. So let me do that. All right, so I'm going to come back, right-click on that first structural member feature, and I'm going to go ahead and edit it. Group 3, you can see it as I select the different groups here. It'll highlight that sketch a little bit bigger. All right, and I can always come back and locate that, okay, to sit up higher. And there we go. So we fixed that. All right. Once we got something like that, again, I'm just taking advantage of a mirroring here. So again, via our front plane, I'll go ahead and mirror, once again, bodies. No need making all that extra sketching or mirroring sketching or anything like that. Let's just mirror those bodies. It's the easiest way to do this. All right. Now, speaking of weldments, whenever we have something or we turn something into a weldment, there's a few things that kind of happen. One of which is that merge result button, when we do things, is shut off. It is assumed that every individual member on here is not supposed to be like a cast or welded right off the bat or fused, again, right off the bat here. What we've got, again, is just our, again, separate bodies. So let's take a look at the tree. Now, if everyone's worked with weldments before, or excuse me, not weldments, multi-body. Same kind of concept, except instead of a solid bodies folder, when we activate something as known as a weldment, we get something called a cut list. Okay, and we can see there's all sorts of bodies in here. All right, and what we want to do, because a lot of these may be the same thing, we want to organize these things, and SOLIDWORKS does that for us. So I'm going to right-click and do an update. Okay, right-click on the cut list folder there, update, and we can see here when I click on them now, it pulls these down into individual pieces here.